And tonight it's rather thin, so we have different, the different workloads and things. But I can understand the commissioner's frustration, but generally, I can work through the chair for those items, and we schedule those things.
I'd just like to streamline it, because some of the other, like the board, any board member can request something to be on the agenda. So I just want to streamline it and make it so it's not a challenge to agenda something.
Commissioners, so what I'm understanding here is maybe on one of these sections that you have a discussion item regarding that, and what the parameters or the protocol might be for such a thing?
Correct.
Okay.
And if you could bring some information from other counties or
Sure.
jurisdictions, so we can have an idea of what we're gonna be facing with the board, with the.
All right, we'll have
planning.
that, we can have that as with your consent, as an agenda item to discuss on the August meeting.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Thank you. And that's all for me.
anybody else?
Good thought.
No? Department announcements?
Oh, just some small ones. We convened an interview panel last week to fill an assistant planner position. And we had 5 young professional women and 2 professional men, and one of the men bowed out and the other one tried by Skype, and the technology wasn't too successful there. It didn't come across, but by the end of the day, we had one candidate that stood out very strongly, and the county's offered employment to this person, and she's agreed to start with us on July 29th as an assistant planner. So that'll be great. And
Is this a new position, or is this a replacement for somebody who had left the department?
Oh, we had wanted to capture a young man who had been working with us, who actually was part of the planning aid interviews way back, but he actually, not planning aid, but permit technician, but actually had a degree from college and everything already with, 4 years of planning experience. And where he was overqualified for that position, John Girton at the time brought him on in a temporary capacity, which is a maximum of 20 hours a week and no county benefits, and you don't have to compete against an open competition in a temporary capacity. But unfortunately, by the time we formalized the HR process to fund and staff the position and get it announced, he had chosen employment with someone else.
Got it.
So the position was created, it was funded, and then unstaffed.
Got it.
So we'll be very happy to receive on Monday the 29th, Ariel Goodspeed, and she'll be our new assistant planner.
Assistant to you?
Excuse me?
Your assistant?
Assistant planner, associate, we have the
Okay.
other classes.
Okay,
Is that part-time?
full-time.
That'll be full-time county staff position, non-consultant, to be a county employee, so that'd be great. And we had another hire. There was a internal recruitment conducted for a staff services specialist, a new position that had been created for the RMA, and actually had been vetted past the SEIU for the new job description, new talent. So not a planner, but yet someone that'll help us with our systems and different research tasks and things, almost like a management analyst, but yet we'll be able to, basically it's a little more bandwidth and breadth for me. And our office assistant, Megan Stevens, applied for that job and landed that job. And her first day was actually Monday in that capacity. So the board, so in addition to the assistant planner, which was already part of the structure, the board in their budget approved 4 positions for the RMA. And I think they only did like 12 or, what was it, 21 countywide?
I don't even think it was that much.
Not even that much, but it really showed the board's wanting to infuse new resources in staff, as well as you've heard about the roads and things, new funding to get some things done. And so those recruitments are opening. Some of the other positions were an additional code enforcement officer, and the other one was to fund the position for Assistant Planning and Building Director for the RMA. And I'm missing one. But, so those things are happening. Those are little announcements. And also, another announcement is tomorrow is an open house for Assemblyman Rivas, who has now set up shop for an office. I think it's one day or, just a few days a week at the RMA. But he's gonna have an open house at the 2801 Technology Parkway tomorrow.
2301.
What did I say?
28.
Threes and eights, they kind of look the same. 2301 Technology Parkway. So that happens tomorrow.
Okay.
So where in the building is his office going to be?
You come in the front lobby and we'll walk you through to his office.
Okay, cool.
So he's on the ground floor.
Mhm.
Anything else?
Is there anything in Public Works, new hires?
Not that I'm aware of.
Any replacement for Adam?
There is a person operating right now in a kind of a handoff fashion in a temporary capacity. We have a person that's, I'm sorry, I don't have his name, in at least as much as 6 months while our new RMA director opens the recruitment for capital projects lead person, such as Adam.
And also for the building inspector, head of building inspection, that's a position?
That's one that needs to be ongoing and rehired, right?
No
I
one's
too was
hired
there
yet?
at the board meeting when the board said, get on it,
Yeah,
for hiring that. But that's not a newly created position, it's just one that
it's gonna
the
replace
county's found
four-leaf.
very hard to fill.
Yeah. Well, this position's gonna replace the four-leaf guy, right?
If a
Because
building,
Gary told me he was gonna be,
if a building official is hired as a county building official, yes, the
Okay.
consulting contract would be terminated.
terminated? Or put on
It's
hold?
supposed to be a nice softer word for that, but
Not
it
terminated.
the job would be done for the temporary consultant.
Okay. That's it?
That's it.
Okay, public comment. This, if anybody has anything to say that's not in the agenda, can come up and speak. And if you want to speak on the agenda, just write your name and, okay, public comments closed. Consent agenda? Anything?
What did we have on the consent? Yeah.
I just want to say that I'm trying to redouble our efforts to get the minutes done from the past meetings. My apologies, but the building and permit counter can be a very busy place, and both Anita and Rosie very much have their hands full with the operations of that front counter. And trying to find a quiet moment to assemble the minutes has proved elusive on many occasions. So we need to put better structures in place or find new technology to help us get there. So
It's considering that we can talk to our phones and it can write out a text, right?
actually,
Isn't
I
there
have
something-
Megan Stevens, our new appointee. That's one of her tasks right now. Is I've done a rough search on Google for exactly that. There is voice recognition software that will basically type it into the computer as people are speaking. It'll give a new individual color to each one of the voices, and then we have to assign those things. And what'll be interesting with that is instead of starting with blank page syndrome, what do I write down from the meeting, from my notes? We're basically going to have every last word and need to pare it down to action minutes. Commissioners and staff discuss the design review and the tree replacement for the such and such project versus every last little iteration left and right on that. But we're exploring that software, and we'll need to have a conversation also with the clerk of the board, because if the technology is just here, I don't know why the other meetings and the other hearing bodies couldn't use it as well. So we're trying to get her done using technology, and that's the bandwidth of additional staff. be able to start entertaining some of these things.
Okay.
Okay,
There was an extended department announcement, I guess, by,
Okay, acknowledgements of public hearing.
do you need an action on the consent agenda?
You mean an action?
Certificate of posting?
There's no action.
I don't know if
There's nothing there.
Certificate, okay.
just acknowledging that.
Yeah.
You just acknowledge the
They don't
public
do
hearing
anything-
and
They don't take action on that?
certificate
There
of
is, I
posting.
think. We need to, let me see. Okay, so on the hemp item, thank you very much for meeting today to consider these minor changes to the hemp ordinance that you reviewed back in May of 2019. By the time it went to the Board of Supervisors, there was additional requests from the public to have a few tweaks to the ordinance, plus we had some additional time because we needed to still publish it in the paper before it goes back to the board. So I wanted to, if you could turn to the redlined copy at the end of the packet, on page 6, I'll walk through some of the minor changes that we made. There's only a couple, and this is for the Planning Commission's consideration. First of all, there was a correction of, basically, it's just a numbering reference on page 6. It's section 030B. And then when you go to B, that's the section that there was the most changes. And
050.
I'm sorry, 050. 050B is where we're having the most changes. So it says, no person except as set forth in B4 who has obtained a cannabis business permit shall be permitted to register or operate under this chapter. This prohibition shall extend as long as the cannabis business permit remains in effect. Then there's no person that's obtained a cannabis business permit from another jurisdiction shall be allowed to operate or register under this chapter. And the purpose of this is we're attempting to not have cannabis and hemp cultivation by the same entity so that we can prevent diversion. Number 3 is no person that cultivates cannabis without a cannabis business permit shall be allowed to register or operate under this chapter. That's just catching those that don't actually have a cannabis business permit. I'm working off the copy that was in the,
Well, can somebody really cultivate cannabis without a permit?
yeah, they still can, but they're not supposed to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just,
They-
the wording's kind of interesting
They
there.
do, but
Yeah.
it's against the law.
I'm going, yeah,
Anybody that breaks the law can't get a permit to
yeah. I'm gonna,
cultivate hemp. Makes sense.
yeah. I had one additional change that I'll mention from the handout, but I'll just finish going through the packet first. It says, no person, that's just a reference to, 4 really hasn't changed except to add the word or operate. 5 was no person engaged in any personal use cannabis activity or commercial cannabis activity, including not limited to cultivation, manufacturing, and distribution in San Benito County or any other jurisdiction may conduct research hemp activity in San Benito County. The reason I added personal use is not everybody operates commercial cannabis activities, that there's some people that would grow amounts of cannabis for personal use. C kind of clarifies that testing of both hemp and cannabis is allowed. So a person that's obtained a permit for laboratory testing may register or operate a laboratory under this chapter, such that laboratory testing of both cannabis and hemp at one facility may be permitted, subject to obtaining the necessary permits and registration in compliance with all laws, rules, and regulations. Then after I prepared the packet, I added one more sentence under B1. It's a handout that I passed out to the Planning Commission today, and this will amend the draft ordinance.
Oh, I think it's being distributed now.
Okay. And just to make things a tad more confusing, but it's to say, these subsections B1, B2, and B5 shall not apply to those persons whose only cannabis activity is that of cannabis testing. Because we do have a request to test cannabis and to test hemp. And we also have a request, I think, to test cannabis and to engage in research hemp. So we're just trying to catch all the permutations. Hopefully we've caught everything. The only other minor change is that this ordinance on the last page of it, I'm gonna change the date so that it'd be introduced on August 20th, 2019, and adopted the 10th day of September 2019. So we're changing the date so that it will go to the board. And I'm open for any questions. So they're minor technical changes just to make sure that we capture all the parameters that we're trying to capture.
Should we open it for public hearing? We got some people here. Okay, we'll open it for public hearing. Anybody wants to speak on this? No? Okay. Close it, bring it back to the board. Any questions?
No, I think everything's been covered, according to how we perused the thing last time.
Mhm.
And that's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, Barbara.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
No, thank you. Thank you very much for all the considering it and considering again, and having, for considering it and holding the meeting today, even though it was the only item on the agenda.
So,
Yeah, I guess my comment is as well, I think we're on the bleeding edge here, just in terms of drafting this ordinance versus other counties in California. Have we gotten any more direction from the state in terms of how they would be managing this? Or I'm just wondering, I think the ordinance is written that if the state does come back and say, hey, you need to include this in your ordinance, there's language that covers potential changes from the state. But I'm just wondering, as we're going through this, are we getting any sort of additional information from the state, or maybe how other counties are drafting potentially their ordinances as well to make sure that we're not missing anything?
I haven't received any recent information. I do know that there's a lot of developments, but I don't have any more information to share on that.
Would you like to invite Karen Overstreet
Yes,
to the
Karen, please,
microphone?
if she has any additional.
She comes with credential.
She's
Yeah, I'm Karen Overstreet, I'm the Ag Commissioner.
right.
There will be some differences and changes. There's proposed amendment to AB 153, and that was to bring it more in line with they're expecting USDA to have as far as requirements. And there's very likely that it will limit the definition of what a research institution is, and it also may require them to register. So at that time, we may want to come back and also want them to register with us. So it's changing a little bit, not so much yet. It's always going to allow local control.
Yeah.
And right now, it's still about 50-50 in the state of allowing hemp and having moratoriums. And so that's why I think we're seeing a lot more activity here as well.
Okay, thanks, Karen, appreciate that.
commissioners, any more questions? No?
No, I'm good.
So, do you hear a motion?
I move that we adjourn.
Not yet, quite yet. Not yet, not yet.
Ordinance.
You want to approve your
Oh,
ordinance?
yeah. It seemed like such a done deal, this just went over my head, sorry.
Comedic relief, that's what it was.
Thank you for coming.
Let it all dangle. Okay, where do we have
Page of the agenda.
that information? Way up at the beginning? Okay. I move that we approve, is that, let's see, an ordinance of the Board of Supervisors of the County of San Benito adding Chapter 7.04 to Title 7 of the San Benito County Code relating to hemp entities, ordinance number.
And to adopt the resolution recommending that the board adopt that ordinance.
And we recommend that the board adopt that resolution.
By the adoption of the resolution. Yes.
By adoption of the resolution?
Yep.
Okay. Is there an ordinance number?
No, you're only adopting the resolution tonight.
Ah, okay.
I don't know what that number is.
Okay.
You don't need the number to adopt it. They can assign it later. So just make the motion to adopt the resolution, and then they'll assign it a number after the fact.
Yes. And so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any discussions? No? No discussions? You wanna make a motion to adjourn?
Steal your thunder.
I move that we adjourn this meeting now that our business is complete.
I second
I-
the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.